Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center and delighted to be joined with Aaron with his documentary, The 17%. Let's take a look at the clip.
Hi everyone, it's me, Max. You may know me for my cookies.
During that time, we were trying to find jobs. So actually that is how I started my own company.
It's the love, it's the never giving up, it's the gratefulness. She wakes up with it every day.
As long as Coletti needs me, I'll come.
Aaron, firstly, welcome to the New Filmmakers LA family. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing your documentary to us. Got so many questions. As I said last night, I can still smell the cookies. But for those that haven't seen your documentary, tell us a brief synopsis.
Yeah, so The 17% is a short documentary that I made during my time at Chapman University. It follows a young woman with Down syndrome who was rejected from every job she applied to because of her disability. And now she has her own company that hires other people with disabilities.
It's a lovely, amazing, wonderful story, and we all fell in love with your lead subject on this story and the journey that you took us on. Aaron, where did this kind of inspiration for this story? How did you come about to find her and then wanted to turn this film into a documentary?
Yeah, so I found her through an Instagram reel. I saw her making cookies, and I think what caught my eye was that she was a disability-owned company, but just so happened to also hire people with disabilities. And unfortunately, I don't see that being prominent, at least in the business world, but also in general. And then my second thought was, how often do you find stories about people with disabilities that are, I believe, authentic and really encapsulate, the struggles and also the successes that they've gone through? And I think Colette embodied what resilience is on behalf of a disability community. Resilience is, like the epitome of like what they try to strive for is overcoming the barriers. And I always tell myself and my friends, the biggest struggles that my friends and myself with a disability have isn't the disability itself, but it's the barriers that the world put on us.
Yeah.
And the limitations.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also we talk about this in the film, but for those that haven't seen it, I mean, it's the title has a meaning behind it, and tell us a little about the title and kind of what that reflects.
Yeah, it's funny because when you see like the 17%, it really is arbitrary. But then when you see the film, the 17% is the statistic of how many people with a disability are employed in the workforce.
Insane, isn't it?
It is insane, and that means that 83% are unemployed.
Yeah.
And I was battling between the two, but I think the 17% stuck because unfortunately it's a low number, but it also just kind of pinpoints what the real struggle is.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
The lack of employment. And I wanted to highlight that someone like Colette and millions of others deserve an opportunity to be heard and to be seen.
And as a filmmaker, was that a surprising number to you? I mean, is it something you knew going into it, or did you discover that when you kind of went into your research?
Yeah, I think it was discovered in the research, and I think the number itself spoke to me because it sounds nice, like it comes off smoothly, but also Colette was one of very few people who not only have a disability-owned company, but are also an entrepreneur. And there's something that spoke to me about that, and having companies that, I think actually you and I spoke about this yesterday, the reason Colette had to open her own bakery was because other doors weren't opening for her. And that she had to essentially open her own door and build it herself.
Yeah.
And I find that almost unfortunate because there should be opportunities that are given to people like her and to really every human being, regardless of disability.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about Colette, because I mean, she's amazing. And not only is she, opening her own doors for herself, she's opening doors for others as well. And that takes not only an entrepreneur, but just, a really kind person to be able to create opportunities for others with other disabilities too, which I think is really beautiful. But like, how is it working with Colette? Like when you talk to your subjects as a filmmaker, like what's your approach? I want to make a documentary about you. Like how did that kind of conversation begin?
Yeah, I think I approached her just as a friend, most importantly. It wasn't so much about creating a documentary, but it was about creating her life story within 13 minutes, which is relatively difficult.
Yeah.
But I think the 3 steps were building trust, familiarity, and also just a sense of respect for her and her family because they welcomed me into their life. And I was then given the responsibility to encapsulate the struggles and also the successes that she's gone through. But it wasn't so much about, Colette herself, but about people like her who are underlooked or overseen. And what do they do when, doors aren't opening for them? So going into it, I knew it wasn't so much only about Colette, it was about thousands of others, regardless of disability, that don't have the opportunity to maybe be at the top.
Yeah.
Colette wasn't always, an entrepreneur. So once I had the familiarity and the respect from her and her family, I was then welcomed in. And my whole intention with creating the film was, this is a conversation. This isn't an interview. I'm not trying to nitpick her. I want her to show me who she is. And I didn't want to tell you how to feel. I wanted to show you how to feel.
Yeah.
And Colette does that.
Well, firstly, Aaron, thank you for sharing such detail, because quite clearly, obviously, you got a great friendship to begin with. But, I think it's really important to have filmmakers with a very understanding, caring heart to make a film and work with each other. It's not about, you really wanted to just kind of, show Colette's stories, but also show for what it's like for millions of other people around the world, and how there's lack of opportunity for different communities. And I think you really, shone a wonderful light for that, for your filmmaking ability. What have you learned? You go in to make it, a documentary is not easy, right? It's not an easy experience. But and there's a lot of footage and putting all together and editing, like you say, our whole life, for example. But what have you learned from this experience? What has surprised you? What have you taken from this experience of making the 17%?
Yeah, as I mentioned yesterday, and I will just say straight up, this is the first film that I've made.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. So I learned what it means to be a filmmaker, but I also learned more about myself. And it was almost like therapy about having to pay for it, because I was able to express my experiences with struggles and also adversity. And I think the disability community experiences that much more distinctly, and also in a different light. And even at the end of my film, Colette's mom, Rosemary, says that that she wants people to take away that people with disabilities have abilities.
Yeah. What I've noticed in the last few years, even talking about this genre and support of storytellers, it's actually about people's abilities. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think Colette's just not only a great entrepreneur, but she's a great leader as well. So I love what you also shared yesterday at the event, is that you are taking this out to different communities and taking it with cakes. And tell us about that, because you're sort of going on this tour right now. Yeah, how is that?
So after graduating college, the film received a Student Academy Award, which was insane.
It's amazing.
And I thought to myself, okay, I'm in London, and I received the award, and I got the Hollywood stamp of approval. I felt like at the pinnacle of life. I'm meeting the CEO of the Academy, and I get home days later, and I get back down to real life. I think to myself, I know what that's like, and my intention from the beginning was creating an impact and making a difference with the film. And I got the Hollywood stamp of approval. How can I use that to then get making a difference stamp, which was my intention. And to me, that looked like partnering with organizations, for-profit corporations, really anyone that needs to see a film like this, because I think it speaks volumes beyond just disability. But what do you do when barriers come your way, or how do you manage adversity? And when someone says no to you, how do you turn it into a yes? So I think it's just about being human. And I wanted to partner and use this tool as an educational and advocacy piece. And I think that Colette just does a great job of embodying that from a variety of people, not just people with Down syndrome or disabilities.
And that's testament to you, Aaron, as a filmmaker, because I think you can only do that with great morals, and you wanted to sort of make sure that the message was getting out there in the way that it should. And I think you went in those things. But no, listen, congratulations on the Allocate, but congratulations on partnering with non-profits to make sure the word is getting out there. What's this experience been like for you, Aaron? Obviously it's got great Allocate, and that's fantastic. But what has it been like? What have audience members been like? What's the experience been like? People coming to you as a filmmaker. How's that experience been?
It's funny, because when I look at my film, as any director would, you look at all the things that you want to change, or all the things that you feel like could or could not be added. And when I get feedback from people, it's consistently positive. some piece of the film touched them. But the funny thing is when people share how they feel about the film,
Yeah.
oftentimes they pinpoint different things I didn't even think about when I directed it. And the way that they felt from a scene, it could be the smallest of a frame to the whole thing. And I just didn't know that it had that effect.
Yeah.
But everyone walks a different course in their life. And at some point, something that either Colette or someone else said resonates with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And every audience is different, every experience is different. But what's Well Done is your first film, and Well Done, I hope it's the first of many. What is next for you?
Yeah, I know that's the question everyone's
Yeah.
asking, right? So I'm currently working on like 3 different projects. I really like the idea of being underlooked or, really underestimated. And there's this community in Montana, a hospital. Long story short, the CEO of a hospital is running short on resources. So she has to travel to her local CVS or pharmacy to pick up over-the-counter medicinals because they have a lack of resources. And on her spare time, she works at a ranch, and she's just doing everything she can to continue having this hospital thrive. But because of COVID and the lack of doctors and surgeons, she's the core operation of this company. And there's stories like those that I want to keep telling.
Yeah.
So that's one that's a primary project, and I'm also working on several, one based in Hawaii and then another just with my friends, just really to like continue building your craft and keeping that motor going.
Well, listen, if this is the first film that you made, then there's going to be such a bright future in the next films that you make. But I'm really excited about the one in Montana and whatever you bring to us. But no, well done, Aaron, for making this film. And just lastly, for anyone out there making their first project, any piece of advice that you would share for anyone that wants to go in and make their first project?
Yeah, I would say most importantly is have a support system around you, people who believe in you when maybe you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And also to know what your boundaries are. I think I had to learn the hard way what I was capable of doing, and then what maybe my incapabilities are.
Yeah.
I just like being on set. You learn so much just by doing.
Yeah.
And I think you have to kind of hit the wall to know that you hit it.
Yeah.
Because people can tell you about it, but you can only do so much to prevent something until you get there. So know what your like strengths are, but also like accept that your limitations.
Yeah.
I think it's just like it's a belief thing. People say
Absolutely.
believe in yourself, but I'd say know yourself.
Such great advice, Aaron. That was a great way to finish. Well, listen, thank you so much for bringing the 17%. Thank you to everyone that was involved in making your film, and we're really excited to see your next project. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me, and shout out to NFMLA and New Filmmakers magazine for having me. This means a lot.
Thank you, Aaron, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.